Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lore You Should Know. I am Greg Tito, and I'm joined by a newcomer to the Lore.
First time here.
That's right. Hey, Ari, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Excited to talk about some Ravnica and some of the bits in the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Real quick, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do here for the Dungeons & Dragons team?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to the D&D team, but this month I celebrated 5 years as a wizard.
Woo!
So yeah, I was on Magic doing world building for them. So this is a kind of a special kind of a moment for me. Get to kind of mix these two things together. But on D&D, I am now a narrative designer, so I get to ask Chris Perkins a lot of questions.
Nice. And you've been working hard on Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
Yes.
Which is coming out on November 20th, I think, everywhere.
Is that true?
I believe that's true.
Okay, yeah.
I should have it pulled up. But in honor of that impending release, we wanted to talk about some of the guilds that are on that plane.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us kind of an overview on what's going on in Ravnica?
So you asked me to talk about, it was like 2 or 4 guilds going into this, and I think we settled on 4. And I was like, there are 10 guilds. This is really hard. So I need to figure out which ones I want to talk about. And so it got me thinking about how when we were doing world building, this was back on when I was on the Magic team, and they were gearing up to do the card set that's coming up. We started doing a lot of thinking about the relationships between the guilds and how guilds kind of relate to one another. And we started noticing that there are these kind of dichotomies that exist with the 10 guilds. Mm. And you can kind of break it down by kind of, if you look at different, two sides of a coin, you can start looking at the different guilds and how each one kind of is a face of the same coin. And so I chose 2 of these, dichotomies to really explore. And so one of them is this dichotomy of that the 2 guilds are the Selesnya and the Golgari.
Okay.
And these 2 guilds are all about
Well, let's start with one of them. Let's go with
sure.
What's and for those of you who don't know, Ravnica is a city-based plane with the whole power structure is centered in these 10 organizations, which are called guilds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a whole world-spanning city, and like you said, the whole thing is broken down into these 10 guilds. And these guilds aren't necessarily about like the territory they occupy. It's not like this is the Selesnya part of town. Mm. All 10 guilds are present all throughout the city. What really kind of characterizes them is their worldview, their philosophy. Oh. And so people aren't born into these guilds. The guilds recruit, or people just join the guilds based on their worldview.
Okay, so they're almost like opt-in religions in a way.
Yeah, kind of. It's funny because the Selesnya is actually one of the closest to a religion. There are 2 kind of more religious-oriented guild, and the Selesnya is one of them.
Okay, cool.
So thank you for that lead-in.
No problem. Yeah. So what's Selesnya all about?
So in a world-spanning city, it could be very easy to not have anything that is natural or anything that is green. Mm-hmm. And the Selesnya really advocate this notion that society, civilization, actually, and nature can live together. And so they kind of live at that kind of cross-section or that crossroads of those two elements. But their big thing is how they want to see society organized. They are very much a communal guild. They believe that the greater good is more important than the needs of the individual. So when you join the Selesnya, it is all about kind of joining something that is larger than yourself.
Interesting. Is there a cult-like figurehead at the top of this guild?
Not necessarily a cult. Well, I guess it's all point of view. But all the guilds have a guild master, and the guild master of the Selesnya is a dryad that has basically 3 bodies that all connect together in like a trunk.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's a dryad that has kind of three bodies that embody 3 element aspects of the Selesnya, which is harmony, life, and order.
When you say 3 bodies, is it 3 separate bodies, or is it like you said, is a dryad that it's one entity?
It is a one central entity, like a central trunk, like a tree, and then it branches out into three like torso and up dryad bodies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And is it fixed or can it move?
It is. It can move. It could move, but it stays usually in something called V2 Gazi, which is the city tree of the Selesnya, and it is there that all of the Selesnya kind of try to follow the will of the world soul, and it's known as Mat Selesnya, which is where the guild derives its name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this entity that you're talking about, that is the guild master, is a tree.
More or less.
Okay.
Yeah. It is. It is a multifaceted tree-like entity. A dryad. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you said does it have 3 heads?
It does. 3 bodies. Yeah, 3 torsos and up. Yeah.
And do the 3 different heads have different personalities?
They do. And most of the time they are in sync with one another, all kind of advocating the will of Mat Selesnya. Where this book kind of opens, where
Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
It kind of takes place, if those of you who are fans of the card game, this takes place right after the events of the previous time we were in Ravnica.
Okay.
So a lot of all the guild masters are the same as from that time period, but things are getting a little precarious in the city. And so we're seeing pretty much for the first time that Tristani, who usually speaks essentially in one voice, all 3 of these kind of beings speaking in one voice, they're actually there's some discord between them. So there's a little bit of I guess disharmony.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much against what the guild is all about.
Yeah. So so essentially it's going to have to be, this is one of the possible seeds for an adventure, or kind of a larger campaign, is reconciling this potential issue.
Do the 3 parts of this guild master have their own names, and do they have their own followers? Like, is it almost like are there now factions within this
it's
guild?
more like just following. It is less a cult of personality and more trying to always follow just the will of the world soul itself, and being connected to nature in a way that other guilds, or the way they would see that other guilds are not.
Is the discord coming from different interpretations of what that soul is saying?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially that thing. It is basically very much that the whole kind of premise of Ravnica is that it is bound by the magic of this of the Guild Pact, which is basically this treaty that forces these 10 guilds to be in balance with one another. Through the events that have happened on Ravnica, the power of the Guild Pact has been imbued inside of an individual, and this person is Jace Balarin. Jace, however, is a planeswalker, and he's one of those individuals who could actually travel from plane to plane. And as he's dealing with things that are problems that are larger than one world, he has left behind the world of Ravnica that is very much in need of that balancing force. And so kind of now the guilds are left to their own devices to kind of figure that out.
I get it. All right. So what did the rank and file of the Selesnyan kind of feel like?
So the Selesnya are kind of a flatter organization than many of the other guilds.
They're the Valve of guilds? Okay.
Yeah. And they basically, instead of having tons of ranks, because they're very much a communal organization, they'll have specialized roles. And so you might have people that are evangels who go out and try to recruit for the Selesnya. But Selesnya aren't just kind of a bunch of kind of hippie communists. They also understand that to survive in a place like Ravnica, you have to gird yourself for conflict. And so patrolling Selesnya grounds are individuals called Ledev Guardians, and Ledev Guardians are wolf-riding knights.
Ooh.
Or there might be Equinauts who are kind of like air cavalry who ride on Pegasi.
What?
And that's
super cool.
Yeah, and or you might be a votary who is designated to protecting one of these temple gardens that the Selesnya used to worship at.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to ride a wolf.
Yeah, that's actually kind of the big draw. Is like, okay, where do I sign up to ride a wolf? That's the guild I'm going to play.
Right.
So.
And then the riding Pegasi is always super cool. I had a whole D&D campaign that found a flock of Pegasi early on in our career, and I was like,
it's time to dig it up again.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And we can just be our little mounted cavalry to come in. I dig that. But I also like that they're fighting for this kind of harmony between urban and natural. I mean, that's
it's not at odds to them that these things kind of coexist. That it is people's job to maintain part of nature, and also to build a city that accommodates the natural world, and also curb the natural world where it might become too intrusive.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And are there different races in, this sounds very elvish.
Yeah. So elves are a prominent part of the guild.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who want to map the different elf subraces from D&D, it actually fits very, very well on Ravnica.
Okay.
And some of the guilds I'm going to talk about actually encompass or actually are where those elves would be best fits.
So the Selesnya would be
the wood elves.
Oh,
wood elves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wood elves. All right.
Yeah. So you can imagine, quick-footed rangers, leaping from roof to roof and kind of making sure that the Selesnya evangels are well protected as they go on their duty and things like that. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
And personally, the most fun race that is most associated with the Selesnya are the Luxodon. And Luxodons are the humanoid elephant people, and
Babar, essentially.
Yeah, Babar. Yeah. And I hadn't considered that before, but yes, it is the Babar race, and they're a ton of fun, and you're gonna be able to do things with that race that other races don't have, like they have a trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have and you can pick things up with it.
Yes,
it's like basically like a mage hand
things.
with a 5 foot or 3 foot radius.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So.
Great. Well, I didn't realize they were associated with this, Selesnya. Is that just because of their inherent nature?
Yeah, they tend to be calmer. They tend to be kind of more introspective, and it just really lends themselves to what the Selesnya actually offer, and they will often serve as emissaries and as evangels.
And the rules for being a Loxodon are in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica?
Yes, they are.
Yes. All right. Can you be an elephant man Pegasi rider?
I don't know what the load-bearing capacity is of Pegasus, but
that's the correct answer.
I'm going to say if it was at my table, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the Golgari.
Yeah, so we were talking about kind of the notion of the dichotomy of that you could actually see all the guilds one against another. It's really interesting to look at the way the Golgari would look at the Selesnya. So the Selesnya venerate life, and they value all things that grow. And the Golgari, who actually, so let me back up a little bit. Ravnica is, it's a city, it's this plain-spanning city, but it's also been around for millennia, which means it has built on top of, layers and layers and layers and layers. So what you see on the surface, like the streets that most people live on, only occupies a small fraction of what Ravnica is. Beneath the streets is this whole vast undercity. And one of the guilds that really kind of occupies that space are the Golgari.
Oh, okay.
And so the Golgari would look at the Selesnya and look at their worship of life as kind of naive, that they're only getting half of the picture. The Golgari see life and death as a cycle, and they're or almost it's life and death are part of a spectrum, and that you can kind of exist or appreciate all parts of that. And the Golgari, it was really interesting going back to the world building part when I was on the Magic team. The Golgari were one of the guilds that got the biggest kind of redesign visually.
Okay.
It was really hard to get a guild that was very much about living in kind of the sewers and in this undercity, and make them visually appealing in a way that wasn't kind of gross or grubbing in muck.
Yeah.
And so when we were doing the redesign this time around, we really leaned into this idea that this is kind of a kingdom beneath the feet of the people on Ravnica. That this is really the place that people aren't quite sure what it might look like or how you even get to Golgari territory. Once you're there, it's this kind of otherworldly, kind of beautiful place. But if you look closer, it's also a place made of fungus and made of things that most people might shy away from or
right.
that might make them recoil. But they embrace this entire cycle of life and death. And so when we looked at them, we wanted to create this kind of unseelie court, this sense of royalty and nobility, that there is this whole order of civilization beneath the streets of what most Ravnicans would understand as their city.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So are they like recyclers in a way? Like,
yeah.
do they take what was once alive and then figure out how to use those bare resources again?
Yep. They will do that. They will also, they will raise zombies with the kind of that have like more of a fungal take to them. That they have these different spores that will animate the dead. We got a glimpse of them with the Circle of Spores Druid.
Right.
When that was
released
designed
on Unearthed Arcana a few months ago before we'd even announced Ravnica.
We're going to see it in print. I hope I'm allowed to say that, but
yes.
we are going to see it in print.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's going to really that really captures their sense of death isn't something. It's so weird to think of necromancy and dealing with death as something that a druid would ever do, but from the Golgari perspective, that death is just kind of a part of the cycle of life, that it is a natural thing, and therefore, raising dead is these are just more tools that they get to use. This is more things they can appreciate in the natural world. So much so that there are even liches among the Golgari. There are there are elves in the Golgari as well as the Selesnya, and this is where we get kind of the drow kind of analog.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the dark elf. And but they it's very, very powerful magic users in the Golgari will become liches, and that is just, in fact, right now their guild master Gerard is himself a lich.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, and has he been guild master for a long time?
Not a super long time, but he has been for a few decades, and we'll see what happens with him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's his personality like?
So Gerard is like the elves of the Golgari, has ambitions to pursue his own aims. So it's interesting, just to go back to what makes the Golgari different than the Selesnya, is that the Selesnya they're very communal in their own way, right? It's a very flat organization. Personal ambition doesn't really factor into it a ton. The Golgari, however, very much in the sense of cycling, will their leadership will often cycle out as well. So you have a lot of ambitious individuals who might kind of assassinate their way to the top or kind of use political maneuvering to push their opponents out. And so the Golgari organization is very much it can be pretty cutthroat at times,
I see.
But in a way that natural world is too. So.
Okay. So it's a survival of the fittest kind of idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where Gerard has been.
He has positioned himself that way. Yeah. His sister previously ran the guild as well.
Oh, okay.
And so there's some familial ties there.
Is she still around or no longer with us?
She's not around. But
her life force is being recycled as
presumably. And they had taken over from, there was a trio of Medusas, or in the magic terminology, 3 Gorgons.
Mm-hmm.
They've had more churn in their leadership than any other guild in recent memory, anyway.
Okay, makes sense. What are the more, as I said, more rank and file folks of the Golgari?
So they have, they'll have their shamans and druids, which may manifest as druids, a circle of spores, or there might be wizards who are necromancers, that kind of a thing. There are, in terms of just roles in the guild, there are people called find brokers, which will, as things kind of make their way down into the sewers or into the undercity, they're the ones that will find things of value. So they might find magic items, they might find just actual wealth and treasure down there. They might find corpses that have floated their way down there, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like ultimate scavengers.
Yeah, they're scavengers that way. There are people that will. So the Golgari aim they have kind of the longest view of things of all the guilds, because they see things as all institutions, both physical ones and physical edifices and kind of just the institutions of society. Those will all crumble away at some point. So they're basically doing this attrition game. And to do that, sometimes they will send out agents to kind of speed things along a little bit. So they might send out assassins to kill key figures to create more instability. Or they might send up these reclaimers who will prepare a part of the surface for reclamation. So they might send out these like spores and things to start infesting an area to get it prepared for when it is time for the Golgari to. It's when it's the Golgari age, essentially.
Oh, is that what they're trying to perpetuate? The age of the Golgari?
Yeah, and to them it's an inevitability. This is going to happen, and it's more about when
speeding it along.
Yeah.
All right. Is that true for all of the other guilds, or like is everyone trying to be like, all right, this is where we're going to be ascendant, or is this just a Golgari thing?
That's a Golgari thing. Some guilds have those kinds of ambitions. Others don't. I think for
Selesnya doesn't sound like one that would care about.
They don't. I don't think they see it as the age of like this is when the guild itself will be the dominant one. But they do, I think, imagine an age where everybody turns to the will of Mount Selesnya. That they live in harmony, and the way to achieve harmony is to kind of essentially be for the greater good in that way. But I don't think every guild is that way. I don't think the Rakdos, who are essentially a hedonistic performance art, cult. I don't think that they see that this is the age of Rakdos. They live to moment for any of those kind of ambitions.
Sweet. All right. Well, anything else on the Golgari?
The Golgari, I find them so fascinating in what they do in a D&D type setting, especially a city world like this. So when you have a world like Ravnica where you could have these kind of noir style adventures and a lot of intrigue, the Golgari are one of those guilds that allow, if you want to position them as your campaign villain, they allow for a dungeon delve. They open up. You could make the Undercity as deep as you want it to go, and you could have the Golgari with there are trolls that are affiliated with the Golgari. There are these insectoid soldiers known as the Crawl that serve the Golgari or serve with the Golgari, and so there are so many places where you could take the comforts of civilization out of the hands of the players, and you could really kind of dig into really. It just offers that part of Ravnica that other guilds don't. There's like the actual true dungeon delve.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm excited to learn more about these guilds in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica when it comes out in November. And I believe it'll be in game stores on November 9th and everywhere else November 20th. So you can look for more of that. But in the meantime,
I'm taking your word for it. I don't actually remember the dates.
I think that's it.
Okay.
And then we shall be revisiting a couple more of these guilds to learn more about it as the fall goes on here on Lore You Should Know. So thanks a lot, Ari.
Yeah, actually, before I go, can I actually just brag about the dice?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm really excited about the dice for Guildmaster's Guide. It comes with this sweet tin.
Oh, it's a sweet circular tin, about 3 inches tall. Almost looks like a cake pan, but like a small bunt.
Mm-hmm. But it's basically got the seal of the guilds on here.
Uh-huh.
And the coolest thing is this D10.
Yeah.
That if you ever need to roll randomly, like what guild you encounter or anything like that, this enables you to do it. And each face of the D10 is another guild symbol.
That's so cool. And it's an oversized D10.
Yeah.
So about the size of what like an oversized D20 would look like.
We'll compare it.
Which is very cool.
Here's a regular D10.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I can't wait for people to check out the dice, which I think are going to be out around the same time as the book. So look for it in game stores then.
All right.
Very cool. How can people find you, whether on Twitter or ask you questions about which guild they should play?
So I am at Winamal on Twitter, and I have sadly been pretty quiet on Twitter, but I'm working to be better at that.
Now's the time to wrap it up.
Now's the time. So if you have questions, you can kind of force me out of my solitude, and I will answer questions.
A Fortress of Solitude is not a good social media platform.
No.
Awesome. Well, I'm at Greg Tito. Feel free to ping me with any questions as well, and I'll walk over to Ari's desk and ask. Great. All right. Well, thank you, Ari Levitch, for coming by. And
it was absolutely my pleasure.
Telling us all, and we'll be back with more Lore You Should Know next week.
Great.
Thanks. Sweet. We're going to do one more. You got time for one more in you?
Yes.
We got 22 minutes, so that was good. That was a good, like 20 minutes, 10 minutes for each one. That was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. The next one, just what's one of the guild names so I can give it to Ron? Izzet. Is it?
Is it?
No, I don't think so.
Is it?
Nah. It's reminding me of our clerical error session where it was like, the character's name who? Who?
Yep. It's good.
So we're going to talk about Izzet and
Simic.
And Simic. All right. Thank you for reminding me. Welcome to Lore You Should Know. I am Greg Tito, and I am joined this week by none other than Ari Levitch.
Hello.
And today on Lore You Should Know, where we usually talk to Chris Perkins about things from Dungeons & Dragons lore that you can use in your game or for your own entertainment, we are going to talk about what's coming in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which is a whole new world. Not to quote Aladdin, but it all involves a city on a plane of Ravnica in which 10 guilds kind of rule the city and share things there. And last week we talked about the Selesnya and the Golgari, and today we're going to talk about Izzet and Simic. So
So Izzet and Simic are, if you look at the guilds as kind of points of view, or they all have the kind of their own point of view.
Yeah.
The Izzet and the Simic are the two kind of more science-minded guilds that, they're interested in kind of in discovery, but they do it in very different ways. These are two of my favorite guilds. In fact, every time I take a guild quiz, I end up in one of these. So
like those cosmopolitan, like, what would you be?
Yeah.
You end up, the sorting hat puts you there.
Yep. And even though I want to be more gruel, and I'll talk about that at some point, but these are the ones I constantly get sorted into. So the Izzet are, first of all, a guild that are, the guild master of that guild is Niv-Mizzet, who is a many millennia old dragon. And he is vain, and he is genius, and probably the smartest single being on Ravnica. And his guild is very much about kind of discovering, basically just discovery itself is the highest virtue. And the guild tends to attract people who want to just, there's no like, for the Izzet, it is, what is the best way to talk about it? Okay, so for the Izzet, it is all about do the experiment, see what happens, and then record. But there's no sense of, here's the problem that we really have to solve, and let's iterate until we get there. They may start there, but if an experiment that is meant to teleport someone away ends up, just recombining their molecular structure in whatever, they'll simply say, well, that's now what this thing does, and they'll just keep going from there. So they'll tend to, the more explosive, the higher energy the experiment, the better to them. Sense of personal safety or for the safety of others is always kind of a backseat to just what are we going to discover? What are we going to find out here? So if Izzet very much appeals to me because of just I tend to be a reckless D&D player. Okay. So when things start to get a little slow,
you're the instigator.
Yeah, I could instigate, and it's all in the name of science. So so they tend to be the most magic heavy of the guilds. So if you are into if you want to be a wizard, if you want to be a sorcerer, these are very much right in Izzet's wheelhouse. Or if you want to be like an eldritch knight, if you're one of the kind of guards of their laboratories, or you're testing out some experimental equipment, then that's very much kind of where Izzet will thrive, or where that will be the most appealing thing to you as a player if you are interested in that kind of thing. The Izzet is for you if you just want to stir the pot. Or one of the guilds.
And that is an archetype of spellcasters, across all properties, really, that like they're the ones who just fire and forget, blow it up first and clean it up afterwards.
Yeah, and it's really cool because one of the things that the Izzet get is they have this special kind of alloy, this metal that they have developed called Mizium, named for Niv-Mizzet.
Of course.
Yeah. Yep. And this is a very, very strong substance, and so they'll they'll build a lot of kind of they'll build a magical apparatus out of this in order to be a conduit for their magic. And they use this metal in a lot of their experiments. And in the game, in the RPG, we've created a Mizium apparatus. So if you are an Izzet wizard or an Izzet caster, a lot of you'll notice in the artwork of the Izzet is they have a lot of these kind of metal tubes and kind of glass cylinders and things like that with a lot of crackling energy all through them. And so we decided to turn that into the Mizium apparatus, which can be their arcane focus, and it allows them to manipulate raw magical energy to pull spells that they might not have prepared. So,
okay, cool. Yeah. So they augment their magical powers with science.
Yes, and with kind of the hope of fostering some recklessness, just to see what happens. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do they survive these mishaps?
Some do. In fact, they do, but there may be some lasting injuries or whatnot. But it's all for for pushing the envelope of what we know. So it really Izzet tends to attract goblins who love Izzet or who are attracted to the guild just are drawn to that kind of energy and kind of recklessness, but with the purpose of discovery. It's not just to hurt things, or there's nothing kind of cruel about it. It's just, if you're in the way, I'm sorry. Or sometimes they'll be their own test subjects or whatnot. They're in the guild. It also attracts Vidalkin. And
what are Vidalkin?
So Vidalkin are one of the new races that we're introducing here. They're from Magic, and they are all blue. And in terms of how they look. And
they're not just sad people.
No, they're not just blue.
They're just blue.
They're just blue.
Oh.
No, they're all blue, but they also tend, personality-wise, they tend to be very procedural and logical.
Oh,
and
so like Vulcans in a way.
Yeah, very, very much kind of akin to that.
Okay.
So if that kind of thing appeals to you, the sense of everyone in the Izzet, they may keep the best records, or they may be able to replicate an experiment, but they're drawn to the facilities. They're drawn to the resources that the Izzet has for them to conduct their research.
Okay. That's very cool. So let's talk a little bit more about Niv Mizzet.
Yeah.
What's his personality like? What kind of a dragon is he?
Niv is the smartest being, and he knows it. At this point in his career, if you can call it that, he doesn't really deal with the day-to-day of what all the other researchers are doing. There's a group called, the Ismundi, who are basically like this board of directors, and they might talk directly with Niv, but he won't talk with all kind of the rank and file researchers. He may be working on his own pet projects. He may be doing his own thing that is so far beyond the intellect of anyone in his guild, and they might not even know what he's doing, but everybody wants his approval. They would love to get the recognition of somebody of his intellect.
So is he like a Steve Jobs type character?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a black dragon?
He's actually a red-colored dragon.
Okay. He's not a black turtleneck dragon.
Oh yeah, I missed it. I totally missed that.
Sorry. I should have said turtleneck. That would have really sold that joke.
But he does have a frill.
Oh, so yeah, close enough. Yeah. Right. Interesting. How long has he been alive?
So he is actually one of the original guild masters.
Oh.
So the founders of the guilds are called Parents.
Yeah.
And so he is the parent of the Izzet.
Oh, wow. So he's been around for thousands of years?
Yeah. So the Guild Pact, which was signed about just over 10,000 years ago. So he is
10,000
plus years old. Yeah.
Wow. Whoa, interesting. So it's a character in the Izzet Guild might have a higher chance of meeting this Niv Mizzet, but most likely this is a figure that is not going to show up in anybody's game.
So it really depends. So if you do something that is genius enough to warrant his attention, then you might get an audience with him, or if you disrupt his plans,
his experiments.
You may be.
He could then turn into a villain pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so there are stat blocks for all the guild masters in the book. So that's a really exciting thing.
Oh,
and,
okay, cool.
Niv Mizzet is a very powerful spellcaster who is also a very powerful dragon. So yeah, you don't want to get on his bad side.
Is there draconic shape shifting in Magic?
As in dragons take human form and things like that.
So is he conducting all these experiments in dragon form?
Yes, it is all in dragon form. So his laboratory. So the guild hall for the Izzet is called Nivix, and at the very top of that is his laboratory. Which so he's at the top of this gigantic tower called the Eyrie, and so it is a Niv Mizzet sized laboratory with Niv Mizzet sized, presumably, tools and instruments.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. He's like a scientist with like glasses on, working on like beakers and pouring things into thing, but he's also this huge ass dragon.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Is he as big as an ancient dragon would be in D&D terms?
Probably not that big.
Okay.
But he is a big dragon. Yeah.
Interesting. Great. All right, cool. And then, we kind of already talked about like what the normal members would be. They'd be wizards, sorcerers, things, people who have that need for knowledge.
It's researchers, it's their attendants, and it's the people who guard those facilities. But it is mostly the most fun part is the researchers, right?
Yeah.
Like that is where you get to kind of have some of these madcap experiments, and you get to manipulate your own magic in a way that other wizards don't get to do.
And what's the official title of the?
It is the Izzet League.
Izzet League.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then the Simic.
Simic. The Simic are other kind of a more science-oriented guild. I find them so fascinating because their science is all about improvement. Their whole concept is they're basically utopian futurists.
Oh.
They believe that we can build a better tomorrow with our science. And the science that they really explore is really they look at the natural world through observation. They observe the natural world, and then they basically take the principles of nature and then improve life. So they're kind of these bio wizards. So there are these group called biomancers that use magic to splice attributes from different animals to create new life forms. And recently, they've even started doing that to themselves. So one of the new races we get to look at are these things called Simic hybrids, which are individuals that could be elves, could be humans, could be Vidalcan, who have modified themselves with characteristics from aquatic and reptilian and amphibian life forms. So you might have somebody that has an armored, like crab-like carapace, or they might be able to spit acid, or they might be able to breathe underwater and, have a swim speed that's equal to their walking speed and stuff like that. So if you like that concept of kind of this toolboxy type thing, of like, I'm going to build my own person.
Yeah.
It's really appealing. In addition to their biomancers, they also have this group called terraformers that also believe that if we're going to make ourselves better, we could also adapt the city itself to being what we want it to be.
Okay.
To match this utopian vision that we have.
Do you said they've recently started experimenting on themselves. They did not create merfolk, or they did not create owlbears.
Nope. So they the class of kind of creature that they create whenever they start splicing attributes from different animals, it's called a crasis.
Okay.
And they vary in size. So there's like category 1, which would be medium, category 2, category 3. They get progressively larger.
Oh, okay.
And they use a lot of, it's very evocative of natural phanomena. So, we landed on categories because of like hurricane force and stuff. So a lot of that is, it always goes back to their concept of observation and mimicking nature. Even when they're casting spells, you'll notice that a lot of it'll take on the forms of like spirals and like Fibonacci sequence, that kind of thing.
Oh, so it's basically like that GIF of everyone like seeing math,
flying
everywhere. That's how they cast spells.
Yeah, and they if you look at a lot of their architecture or even their costuming, when we were kind of giving them their visual update when I was back on the Magic team.
Yeah,
we really looked at this notion that everything they have or everything that they wear is grown as opposed to being built. So instead of glass in their buildings, it might be like a film, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's why a lot of their armor has this kind of pearlescent quality, because it was probably grown, and it just really points to this notion that everything they need they can get from nature, but it's nature that they can then manipulate to optimize.
But they don't do any kind of mechanical augmentation.
No, they're not going to have like a steam powered hand or something like that.
That's more Izzet.
Yeah, that would definitely be in the Izzet space. So they would be much more inclined to just, I'm going to have a crab claw instead, and like mission accomplished. So
are they? Yeah, you keep using a lot of examples from aquatic creatures. Is that in their DNA to a certain extent?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of Simic territory exists in these things called zonots, and zonots are these kind of huge shafts that go down to these seas, underground seas that exist beneath the city.
Okay.
And so a lot of their laboratories are underwater. There are merfolk in the guild. There are even Vidalcan themselves have an amphibious kind of have some amphibious qualities to them, and so they're very much tied to water. So a lot of the life forms that they use are reptiles, amphibians, and fish. We don't see a lot of like mammals with them. Other guilds might be associated with. This goes back to also our desire to differentiate the guilds some more.
Yeah.
So like groups like Selesnya, they would be more associated with wolves and a Pegasus that are more that are mammals.
Yeah.
And so we really carved out some space for the Simic to really just live in this kind of aquatic and reptilian kind of
right.
environment.
I like the idea of them growing armor using shells and things like that. That's really neat.
It was a lot of fun to explore that, and I think the artists had a lot of fun kind of doing that as well. We got to, when we were visualizing what some of these Simic hybrids could be, we just had these lineups of different augmentations, and it was just a lot of fun to see that come.
What's the guildmaster of the Simic look like?
So right now it is the guildmaster is Prime Speaker Zagana.
Oh.
And she is a merfolk who is also a powerful wizard, and she very much believes in this kind of utopian future, that if we kind of are able to focus on our science, we will be able to realize that future. There are some people that are pushing more in an aggressive direction who want to see these Simic hybrids that are part of this, what's called the Guardian Project, take on a much more of like a super soldier kind of vibe and start preparing for when the fight comes between the guilds, we're going to be ready with basically with soldiers that are perfectly adapted to fight each of these guilds.
Oh, so they've got like 9 armies out there ready to fight the other guilds?
And for them, I think they're thinking we probably don't need armies, we need specialists. So thinking about them as like special forces, if we go in these teams, we could deal with.
So like these like SEAL Team 6.
Which is a great idea for our D&D party.
Yeah, that is a great idea.
Yeah.
To have them be their attack force that's going in.
Yep.
Now, are they antagonistic to other guilds more so than the other ones are?
No, not necessarily. I think they would see themselves as realistic. At least the people in the guild who advocate that policy, there's like, this is going to happen at some point. We have to be prepared.
Right. And because of their scientific nature, they would be like, all right, let's prepare for every
and we will iterate on that. Yeah. And it's fun. Like the Simic, I think, make and the Izzet as well, because of their kind of science. They play in some of the tropes with like science that can get out of control. So you could imagine campaign antagonists where an Izzet experiment blows up half a block, and now you might have this lingering magical effect, and now you have to like evacuate people while dealing with this issue. Or with the Simic, you might have one of their giant Krasis get loose, and now you have to go deal with this. Or you might have a squad of these Guardian Project super soldiers who have gone rogue, and now you have to deal with them.
Yeah.
So there's so much that they get to lean into their science to provide awesome villains and awesome playable characters.
Yeah. Gosh, you just rattled off like 2 or 3 really good hooks there. Do you think in the fiction of the guilds of Ravnica, are there like double agents? Are there people who, would be an Izzet
absolutely
in name, and then is kind of getting into the Simics and figuring out?
Yes, that usually lives with another guild.
Well, that's a
And-
perfect segue into
Yeah.
us
So
talking.
That's the Dimir, and that's literally everything I know about the Dimir. And yeah,
All right. Well, we have to kill everyone listening to this
That's it.
podcast right
That's
now.
so
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anything else about the Simic you want to get out before we close this up?
good question. I think that covers it. For the
All
most
right.
part. Yeah.
I love it. How can people get in touch with you and ask you more questions about these guilds?
So I am on Twitter at Winamall. So yeah, you can reach me there.
And that's just WINEM.
EMALL.
Ah.
Yeah.
You got it. Like winnowing out the people who
Sure.
pronounce that phonetically.
Yeah. So that's where you can find me, and I will do my best to be diligent about answering questions.
Sweet. I am at Greg Tito. Feel free to ping me, and I'll go and ask Ari all these questions, and we'll get to the heart of it. But you'll be able to answer a lot of these with Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica that comes out everywhere on November 20th, but it should be in game stores on November 9th.
Yes, and I just want to point out one other thing about the book, if that's okay.
Go for
I
it.
pointed out dice last time, and I came from Magic,
Yeah.
and on Magic there was kind of an aversion to maps. Of late, we're seeing more maps, but this book has maps of the city of Ravnica,
Maps galore.
and I couldn't be more excited.
Sweet.
So I'll end on that.
I can't wait to. I love maps as well. I think they are a perfect, portal into an imaginary world. So I can't wait to see those as well.
Awesome.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks a lot, Ari. And we'll be back talking with more guilds
Sounds good.
at some point.
Great.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Thanks, everyone on Twitch. That was tons of fun. I love being the inquisitive player because these are all things I don't know about these guilds that I want to know more about. So thank you so much for bearing with all of my questions. And hopefully more than a few people out there are excited to learn more when this book comes out or just listening to more segments like this. So I think that's it for today. We may be back on later to record some intros and outros, but I don't think we're going to be streaming live. So I'll be saying goodbye to you from here in the D&D office. Quick note, there is a lot of streaming going on tomorrow. So actually, let me call that up and talk through that a little bit. Because there's quite a bit, and I'm not going to be here. So I want to make sure I tell you all about it. Those of you who are listening at home. All right, you can stick around for this or you can bust out, whatever you are comfortable.
I want to see how this all works.
Yeah, you want to see how the sausage is made?
Mm-hmm.
It'll take me a second because I got to get this. So feel free to. Did that work for you? Talking about that in that manner?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Anything you wish you had said that you can say now to our loyal listeners?
Anything at all. Yeah. So you had me come in after Chris Perkins and Mercer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I had to just follow that act. Thank you very much.
You did a good job.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I thought you nailed it. I mean, that's they were talking about larger stories and what they mean, but they didn't get to the nitty gritty of the lore. Even when I was trying to get them to talk more about, hey, what did Chris put in Dragon Heist and things like that, or what did Matt put in?
So an utter waste of time is what you're saying.
That was an utter waste of time. Totally ununderstanding. So you got to come in here and be like, here's nuts and
all right,
bolts.
look,
that
this
you
this is what it is.
that you can actually use
Yeah.
this on the stream, which I think is badass. So don't sell yourself short there. I think you did a great job. So tomorrow we have the Don't Split the Podcast Network plays through the Demon Plague. We're hosting that at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Dungeon Master James Introcasto will be leading Rudy Basso as well as Lauren Obo Crazy as TK joins the fray and Robert Aducci. All names I know and love and recognize as being awesome folks, including James Introcasto. You might have seen his name pop up here in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. He is one of the freelancers along with James Hake who helped do some heavy lifting of the writing there that Chris Perkins and Matt Mercer bumped them up with. And then, of course, at 12 noon, we've got Binwin Plays Idle Champions. That's Mr. Scott Kurtz himself playing at Binwin Bronzebottom, who is his own character in Idle Champions. So that'll be super fun. At 1 p.m., we will have a rerun of Mike Merrill's Happy Fun Hour. He is going to be out of the office this week, unfortunately. 2 p.m., Mr. Bart Carroll will be doing a new Dungeons and Doodles episode. This is super fun. This is when 3 artists come in and take promptings from you, the viewer, and draw little doodles and make them super fun for all of you, usually with some jokey elements involved. So watch that if you can, or watch it on demand if you can't make it to the live showing of that. I will be out of the office tomorrow, so there will be no Dungeons & Dragons news from me, but I believe there will be a replacement. Maybe Ari will do it since you did so well here.
Just whatever you need me to do.
Sweet. All you got to do is just read this document front to back, and you should be no problem. But on Saturday I will not be there, but we may be giving away some of these fun coins. Maybe just one. I'm going to put them in front of my face so you can actually see them. These are actual gold dragon coins. We may be giving away one of those tomorrow during that segment. So check it out if you can. And then, of course, it is episode 111. It's the 111st birthday of Dice Camera Action at 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Chris Perkins will be there leading the crew with Anna Prosser-Robinson, Jared Knabenbauer, Nathan Sharp, Holly Conrad, and a special guest, Christina Ariel, who is an amazing role player as well as cosplayer. You have probably seen her as Wonder Woman. She was here for the Stream of Many Eyes. She was in LA for the Stream of Many Eyes, as well as a member of Sirens of the Realms. So she will be guesting as a special character, which I'm not going to let you know what's going to happen with that. And then, of course, Strix's Chicken Foot Coven contest it will be announcing their winners tomorrow. So look for that. All right. That's about all that's going on tomorrow. There is a lot of fun stuff happening for the rest of the week. But all of the folks who will be here and on the twitch.tv/DND channel will let you know what's happening in the days to come. I will be not here tomorrow, but I will be back for Wednesdays. No, I'm sorry, I won't be back because there's no Clerical Air on Wednesday. We'll be running through some of that. So I won't see you guys until next Monday. Crazy. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. You're the best.